Dory and Brogy were relieved to see Luffy still healthy. It had been 2 years since they last met, so both were overjoyed. At the same time, Marcus Mars successfully infiltrated after crashing straight through the shield. He wanted to stop Vegapunk's live video broadcast. Below, Jinbei couldn't believe his eyes when he saw the giant creature. The bird's haki was so terrifying that even he was afraid. Therefore, he had to quickly bring Zoro back and leave this dangerous island with the other crewmates. Jinbei asked Zoro to follow him, but he refused. Lucy, despite having 3 slashes, had not yet fallen. Just by looking at his eyes, Zoro knew he could still fight. The opponent then turned to look at the two of them, just as Sanji contacted to ask if he had taken Zoro away yet. Jinbei immediately held his crewmate tightly, telling him that he had won and didn't need to fight anymore, while the opponent slowly approached. Seeing this, Jinbei used Fishman Karate to attack Lucci, a move used to create a diversion and give the other two a chance to escape. After transforming back into his human form, Lucci was surprised that Marcus Mars was here. He asked his subordinate where York was. Zoro, being led away by Jinbei, also wondered what the giant body of the monster was. And as for Lucci, facing the question from his superior, he showed fear. He then stated that York was still being held in the control room on the 4th floor, Building A. The two who just escaped were Roronoa Zoro and Jinbei, the Son of the Sea, and there were 5 other members of the Straw Hat Pirates here as well. They and 2 other Vegapunks were preparing to leave through the back exit of the lava phase, and in the basement of the laboratory, there were still 85 Cypher Paul agents and 4 Seraphim. Vegapunk's broadcast would continue in another 6 minutes. Hearing this, Marcus Mars seemed very satisfied with this useful information. He praised Lucci for doing a good job and said he had no more questions. Before letting him leave, Lucci had a request. It was about his severely injured crewmate in the control room. Please, spare him. Marcus Mars said that was very difficult. Insects are sometimes crushed, even if one has no intention of doing so. This extinguished Lucci's hope of saving his crewmate, because, after all, they were just insects in the eyes of the Gorosei. Back with Luffy, he felt that the 2 old giants were as strong as ever. They said they almost didn't recognize him, and that the Straw Hat crew must be the ones who changed the most in 2 years. Brogy asked why Luffy knew about the legendary Elbaf god's form. They were truly happy to see this form. Luffy said he didn't understand what he was talking about, but to talk about it later because they needed to deal with the 2 monsters first. After being attacked by the 2 giants, Saturn and Warcury had fully recovered. They considered the 3 to be an unpleasant combination. In Dory's eyes, the 2 monsters in front of them were as large as the wild beasts in the Elbaf forest. Luffy reminded his 2 friends, saying that his crew didn't want to fight anymore, so they should find a way to escape. Dory agreed, because, in fact, they had just met Sanji, who had relayed the entire plan and asked them to come here to take Luffy away. Brogy said that after reading the news about their group in the newspaper, they came here to help. The newspaper wrote that Luffy was a villain, had taken Vegapunk hostage, and was surrounded by the Marines. Hearing this, even Luffy chuckled. He didn't expect the newspaper to write such a thing. Currently, the members of the Straw Hat Pirates were separated, so they had to quickly regroup and leave this place. To inform everyone, Dory blew a large horn, making the sound echo across the island. On the coastline, after hearing the horn, the other members of the giant pirate crew recognized it. Their captain had met Luffy, so there was no need to fight anymore. Before leaving, they also mocked the Marine soldiers below, saying that even if they attacked the Marine battleship, there would be no treasure to steal. Inside, Warcury was unhappy to realize that it was a signal to retreat, and he also wanted to issue a warning so that no one could escape. The giant pig snorted and roared, the deafening sound accompanied by haki power, forcing the 2 giants to use their shields to block. The entire island was shaking violently, and the weaker Marine soldiers were knocked unconscious by the haki. Even the giants were affected by this roar. Luffy, not hiding behind the giants' shields, bore the full brunt of the pressure Warcury created. His body began to stretch comically, to the point where his 2 eyes and the scar on his chest flew off his body. Witnessing this scene, Dory and Brogy were so shocked they couldn't believe their eyes. Everything on Luffy had been blown away by the wind, leaving only his pants. He cried out, but showed no pain, asking his 2 friends to pick up his 2 eyes to put them back. Dory immediately used his sword to catch the things Luffy dropped. He then retrieved everything and put them back on his body as if nothing had happened. Brogy asked if Luffy was okay. He just smiled and thanked them. Luffy said he was fine, then stretched his face like rubber to prove what he had just said. Dory laughed loudly, thinking his body was very funny now, while Brogy admitted that Luffy was much stronger than before. And now they had to face the one who created the roar of Conqueror's Haki before they could leave. Warcury looked at the 3 of them and called them insects. Luffy told his 2 friends that the one in front of them was an arrogant member of the world government. The opponent said that to ensure Luffy would not return to his original form, he would chop him into pieces. With that, he charged to attack, and Dory and Brogy immediately had to use their shields to block. The pig's fangs had turned into sharp blades. If the 2 giants hadn't stood to block the attack, Luffy's body would have been cut into many pieces. When asked if they knew who the captain of the Straw Hat Pirates was, the 2 giants replied in unison that Luffy was their friend. Immediately after, they used their strength to knock the beast away. Saturn then stepped in to take over the attack position, saying he didn't care about the relationship between insects like them. He wanted to erase Luffy from world history forever. Saturn spat out highly poisonous balls towards Luffy, who reminded the 2 giants not to touch them. He himself pulled up a nearby coconut tree to create a baseball bat to block. Using his imagination, Luffy used his teeth to shape the bat. Then he painted another layer of paint to make the bat shiny, and he also put on the hat with the number 56. As soon as the poisonous balls flew over, Luffy used the giant bat to perfectly hit them all away, even saying, "I'm returning these poisonous balls to you." Warcury and Saturn were hit, causing a huge explosion. Luffy was very surprised, not expecting it to explode so loudly. But this was their chance to escape. The other crew members warned that the flames were spreading closer, so they had to leave immediately. Brogy and Dory thought the 2 monsters had exploded into smithereens, but Luffy explained that they were immortal beings and couldn't die. Even though he had tried everything, they still recovered, and they had never heard of such an ability or race. It was best to run away now before something worse happened. At the same time, Usopp's group was struggling to pull the Sunny out of the pile of trees, but despite using all their strength, they couldn't move it even a little. Nami looked at this scene with a bit of worry. "I don't know when I'll be able to leave here. Robin still needs rest, while Jinbei has brought Zoro back. Since the flying device ran out of energy, he switched to running on his own feet to be faster. On Bonnie's side, she is still running towards the giant tribe's ship. Kuma shows no signs of waking up due to severe injuries, and Atlas then warns about those standing in front of the ship, blocking their way. These are the 3 Marine Vice Admirals tasked with eliminating Bonnie. Sanji, on the other side, is also racing against time. He has a bad feeling about what's about to happen. Vegapunk's broadcast is still ongoing, and seeing this, York, who is tied up below, doesn't understand what they are trying to do. She demands to be uncuffed, but she can't, and at this moment, York's cry helps the giant bird discover her. Marcus Mars asks where the room on the screen that Vegapunk is showing is, and York, completely unaware of who this is, shows fear. The scene shifts to Admiral Kizaru, who is still lying on the ship. When asked where his injury is, he says this: "I have a very deep wound in my heart, but no one needs to do anything. Just let me rest." Inside the island at this moment, the giant robot has fully awakened. Although his body is very old, he still stands up and calls out, "Joyboy." The spear that was stabbed into him is pulled out, and right below, some marine soldiers are still chasing the members of the giant pirate crew. However, they have to stop because they can't believe their eyes. There is something much larger than the giants. This scene is seen by the entire Marine faction from a distance. The burning flame cannot stop the giant machine's advance. As he moves, he apologizes to Joyboy. The situation on the island was utterly chaotic. Frankie's group was blocked from escaping by the vice admirals, while Sanji was trying to get Vegapunk's body to safety. On the other side, Noosjuro continued to take down the last active cyborgs. His speed was so great that the pacifistas, even after detecting their targets, couldn't react in time to attack. Seizing the opportunity, the Marines mobilized their entire force to bombard Egghead Island once more. This time, their goal was to wipe out the entire area, leaving the Straw Hat Pirates no escape. Noosjuro never expected that Bonnie, a mere 12-year-old girl, would be entrusted by Vegapunk with enough power to destroy an entire nation. He considered the doctor a foolish traitor. Meanwhile, the remaining giants had begun to return to their ship. The order from the Gorosei was to sink the Elbaf ship to prevent anyone from escaping. Cornered, Bonnie was forced to fight to protect Kuma. The first to engage the vice admiral was Frankie. His opponent possessed a steam-powered arm, but Frankie's steel arm was stronger, and he quickly defeated his foe. Immediately after, another vice admiral targeted Bonnie. The girl asked the accompanying giant to take care of her father, then plunged straight into battle. When her opponent called Kuma a weapon, Bonnie's anger erupted. Using her devil fruit power, she transformed him into a child. The vice admiral tried to beg for forgiveness, but Bonnie, who was also just a little girl, didn't hesitate to teach him a lesson he wouldn't forget. As she attacked, she shouted, "My father is a hero!" "Take back what you just said." Atlas also quickly rushed in to assist, delivering a punch that sent the third vice admiral flying. She asked where Luffy and the others were. If they hadn't arrived yet, the group would have to temporarily retreat. However, Frankie suggested defeating all three vice admirals before their comrades arrived. Despite being defeated, the vice admirals were still seasoned warriors with astonishing resilience. The scene shifted to Marcus Mars. With his colossal body, he terrified York to the point of tears, constantly begging for her life and crying out, "I don't taste good. Please don't eat me." Marcus Mars angrily roared, but the girl continued to cry. Finally, he broke her shackles, freeing York to calm her down. Then, Marcus Mars asked York to take him to the room appearing on the screen, where Vegapunk was broadcasting the video. Since York was also one of Vegapunk's clones, she must know the location. Having no other choice, Marcus Mars used his massive beak to grab York's body and flew off. Meanwhile, the video Vegapunk had prepared was still playing. However, he had not yet revealed the most important thing, perhaps waiting for the right moment. Shaka asked, "Aren't you having coffee?" Vegapunk replied calmly, "I'm very sensitive to hot things." Only 4 minutes remained before he would reveal the truth about the world. At the same time, Marcus Mars had brought York to a room that looked exactly like the one in the video. She confirmed, "This is it. They filmed here." Hearing this, the giant bird opened its mouth, blowing out a powerful stream of fire, incinerating everything around. He believed that if he destroyed everything, Vegapunk's broadcast would be cut off. York frantically rushed to stop him, shouting that destroying this place was useless, because the video was still playing, proving the transmission device was not here. She began to deduce if she put herself in Vegapunk's shoes, he would surely hide the original device somewhere safer. But if Marcus Mars continued to wreak havoc, the consequences would be extremely serious. She warned that the second floor of the building was the weapon deployment area, the first floor was the energy plant, and the third floor was filled with high-pressure gas cylinders. If those exploded simultaneously, all of Punk Records will be blown away. Hearing this, Marcus Mars asked York to think of a solution. She nodded, saying that she would end this stupid broadcast immediately. Just then, Marcus Mars suddenly sensed a sound coming from a small creature. Most likely, the snail messenger. This proved that the room containing Vegapunk's original recording was very close. He immediately asked York to take him there. Meanwhile, inside another building, Stussy could finally breathe a sigh of relief as the giant monster had spared them. She realized that the giant bird was one of the 5 elders, Gorosei. Her teammate beside her also trembled, gasping for breath and joking awkwardly. "Were you abandoned?" Hearing this, Stussy just gave a faint smile. "No need to pity me. I voluntarily stayed to finish the last task." Elsewhere, Nami's group received news that they had to leave Stussy behind. Edison explained that there was no other choice, as someone needed to lower the shield just as the ship escaped. The Frontier Dome system could only be deactivated from the control room, and Stussy had voluntarily taken on that task. Everyone could only accept it. "The best way to thank her," Edison said, "is for all of us to get out of here together." Edison reassured her. "I've calculated everything. This ship will fall straight to the ground, but we still have a chance to land safely." Upon hearing this, Nami and Chopper burst into tears, while the other members announced that the propulsion system was ready. They just needed to wait for Zoro and Jinbei to return. Then they could all jump into the sea. However, Chopper was still worried that this wouldn't be enough to reach the sea surface. Edison laughed, thinking their ship was troublesome. But he also added, "It's that determined spirit that creates miracles. I'm just a scientist, but I believe in you all." He guaranteed that the ship would land safely on the water. After saying this, Lilith suddenly realized something and quickly tried to stop him, but Edison was determined. He immediately flew towards the shield, despite the desperate screams of his friend behind him. According to his calculations, upon impact with the shield, his body would suffer 78% damage. "That's not enough to kill me," Edison said. As soon as he touched the shield, a huge explosion rang out. Those who witnessed it could only stand frozen in shock and pain. Outside the coast, a strange phenomenon was occurring. All the Navy warships were suddenly pulled strongly towards Egghead Island. The reason was Jew Peter. He continuously sucked everything around him into his body. The terrifying suction force made Dory and Brogy unable to move, and even Luffy, in his sun god Nika state, was held tight, unable to budge. In this critical situation, Luffy quickly thought of a way. He grabbed Brogy's arm, using the momentum to fly straight up. Nearby, he discovered a building just large enough to stuff into the giant sandworm's mouth. Luffy cut the building in half, lifted it with his muscular form, and shouted, "If you're hungry, eat these buildings!" After saying that, he threw the giant concrete block straight into the opponent's throat. The attack, with terrifying power, made the monster collapse on the spot. Thanks to this, the 3 of them had a chance to continue fleeing. However, using too much strength caused Luffy's body to return to its old man state. Brogy asked in surprise what had happened. Luffy gasped, saying that he had almost run out of energy from food. Hearing about food, the 2 giants remembered that they had brought some fermented shark, the emergency food of the giant race. Its smell was so strong that Luffy grimaced, but to regain his strength, he still decided to eat it. Dory laughed and said, "Once you get used to it, you'll find it delicious." Indeed, after just a few bites, Luffy's body fully recovered, becoming as strong as before. Seeing this, Dory laughed and said, "Your body is so simple. Just eat, and you're strong again." But their joy was short-lived. Warcury, with the body of a giant pig, caught up with them. Brogy warned Luffy to stay away, but he chose to stay and fight. "Once I'm full, I'm not afraid of anything," Luffy shouted, then leaped high, activating Gear 3rd, creating a giant fist to attack Warcury. The terrible collision stunned Warcury, but Luffy also screamed in pain. The pig's body was as hard as steel. The 2 giants, seeing this, urged, "Retreat! Don't let these monsters catch up." At the same time, in the research area, Lilith was silently expressing her sorrow for Edison. However, they had no time to grieve, because, at that moment, Saturn suddenly appeared, putting everyone in danger. Below, Bonnie's group had finally defeated the 3 vice-admirals. The accompanying giant invited them onto the ship, but the very next second, he was slashed by Nusjuro's sword. His sudden appearance left everyone frozen in fear. The scene shifts to Vegapunk's secret room. Thanks to York, Marcus Mars finally found his way there. As expected, the original Den Den Mushi was there. Marcus Mars let out a cold laugh, saying that Vegapunk's luck had run out, then raised his arm, preparing to destroy the device immediately. Speaking to the whole world for the first time made Vegapunk a little flustered. However, the waiting time was over, so he calmly began his speech. Meanwhile, Marcus Mars discovered something astonishing. The world's greatest brain was being stored right here. Even though Vegapunk's original body had died, the brain continued to exist. It contained all of humanity's knowledge, and its current size was as large as a building. While Marcus Mars was distracted, the transponder snail tried to crawl away to escape, but it was too slow and was still caught by him. In the video playing, Dr. Vegapunk said that many people might not believe what he was about to reveal, but this broadcast would surely make the whole world listen and unite. The scene shifted to the East Blue, Usopp's hometown. There, children were intently listening to stories about Dr. Vegapunk, the person who had created countless great inventions that changed the world. Although they couldn't see his image, they could hear his voice transmitted through the radio waves, and everyone was curious to know what the secret of the world was. Vegapunk also made significant contributions in the field of medicine, so he had a profound global influence. At this moment, the Marines were trying their best to stop the broadcast, but the signal continued to spread everywhere. In a distant sea, the whale Laboon surfaced. On its massive body were intricate scars and the familiar skull symbol of the Straw Hat Pirates. In the future land, Vegapunk's hometown, everyone was intently watching the screen, eagerly waiting to hear what their genius scientist would say. For the people there, Vegapunk was a great source of pride. A child wondered, didn't he cause the nightmare in Baltimore? The old man next to him shook his head, gently explaining that it wasn't Vegapunk, but Frankie, who had transformed his own body into machinery. In the South Blue, where Chopper once honed his skills, the island residents also received news about Vegapunk. They discussed him, the father of modern science, who contributed to the creation of countless advanced weapons. Meanwhile, on Hachinosu Pirate Island, the situation became chaotic. Everyone's attention was drawn to the broadcast. Everyone was eager to know, what exactly is the secret of the world? Back in the laboratory, Marcus Mars crushed the transponder snail to cut off the broadcast. But what he didn't expect was that Vegapunk had anticipated this. That snail was just a fake. The broadcast continued as planned. Marcus Mars was furious at being tricked, immediately transformed into a giant bird, and flew off, determined to find the real live broadcasting device. Around him, the scene was only ruined buildings, with no trace to identify the broadcast location. The next scene shifted to where Luffy and the two giants were trying to escape. Behind them, Warcury was still relentlessly pursuing. No matter how many times it was defeated, the monster recovered, as if it had never been injured. Warcury contacted Marcus Mars, asking if he had found the broadcasting device yet. The giant bird replied that Vegapunk had hidden it too well. The Gorosei began to worry. If things continued, all the world government's secrets would be exposed. Marcus Mars swore he would find it, but needed more time. Saturn urged him to quickly destroy the device, but Marcus Mars said that Vegapunk had prepared very carefully, so it couldn't be easily disconnected. They didn't know exactly what Vegapunk intended to say, but York had revealed that he had taken over Ohara's research. Hearing this, Warcury and Saturn thought he was seeking revenge for the Ohara tragedy of the past. Meanwhile, Sanji was still trying to get Vegapunk's body to safety. Suddenly, he sensed Bonnie was in danger and immediately changed direction to help. Nuzjuro declared that he would not let Bonnie get the Marine's weapons, but Frankie resolutely stood up to protect her. Just then, Sanji appeared and plunged into the battle. Nuzjuro's sword slowly rose. In a dangerous moment, Sanji kicked to block the blow, then counterattacked with a powerful kick to the chin, making his opponent spit blood. He declared, "No one is allowed to hurt her." Flames raged fiercely around Nusjuro's body, but he did not stop. Nusjuro transformed into a giant horse, biting Sanji tightly. Vegapunk's body fell, fortunately caught by Atlas in time. Bonnie worried about Sanji, but could do nothing. The two below continuously dodged the terrifying stomps from the giant horse. Fortunately, Oimo and Kashi appeared just in time. After realizing that the other group were allies of the Straw Hat Pirates, they immediately rushed to assist, holding Nusjuro's body tightly so Sanji could escape. However, the opponent's strength was too great, causing even the two giants to struggle. Seeing this, Bonnie transformed into a giant form, joining them in battle. Nusjuro transformed back into human form, continuously slashing with his sword, but Bonnie, with the advantage of her giant size, did not flinch. During the broadcast, Vegapunk admitted that he had committed 2 major crimes, so he might be arrested or executed. That's why he recorded this video and set it to play automatically when his heart stopped beating, which meant he was dead. The news stunned the whole world. Everywhere, those watching were shocked. 2 former colleagues who had tried to overthrow Vegapunk also couldn't understand why he chose this path. Vegapunk said that no matter who executed him, he would not consider them evil. In Nami's area, the Straw Hat crew was facing Saturn. His giant and terrifying body made everyone panic. Saturn asked them to get out of the way, because he didn't want to waste time. Lilith and Brook rushed over, calling on everyone to stop the monster. Chopper tried to take Robin to safety, but she refused, determined to stay. In Robin's mind, the voice of the one who had ordered the destruction of Ohara still echoed. The opponent quickly recognized her as Nico Robin, the last survivor of Ohara, and the one Akainu had failed to kill. Nami was surprised, not understanding why the opponent knew Robin's past so well. Lilith explained that he was one of the 5 elders. The giant monster immediately attacked Robin, forcing the others to take the blow. Nami ran to carry Robin away, while the remaining crew members unanimously declared, "No matter what happens, we will definitely protect her." Meanwhile, Luffy was still fleeing from pursuit. Warcury asked Marcus Mars about the broadcast location, but he still hadn't found it. Jew Peter was also searching all over the ground without finding anything. No one expected Vegapunk to cause so much trouble. Off the coast, Navy warships continued their fierce bombardment. The entire island was on fire, but nothing could stop the broadcast. Vegapunk said that his statement might make many people laugh, but nevertheless, everyone had the right to know the truth. In another room, York was trying to find the broadcasting device. She was confident that, since she was also a Vegapunk, she would soon find it. However, too many fake transponder snails had been set up beforehand, making it impossible for Marcus Mars to distinguish the real ones. When someone suggested destroying the power plant, Saturn immediately objected because it would cause immeasurable consequences. Finally, Vegapunk delivered a conclusion that shook the entire world. All continents on Earth would be submerged to the bottom of the sea. That statement silenced everyone. The Gorosei were collectively enraged, while people all over the world could only watch in stunned silence. At Marine headquarters, everything became chaotic after hearing Vegapunk's announcement. They couldn't believe that the entire world would be submerged under the ocean. The scene then shifted to a pirate town, where all of them disbelieved Vegapunk's words, thinking he was using his own death to cause chaos in the world. How could the whole world sink into the sea? However, many people still put their faith in Vegapunk, just like the residents of Water 7. There, the water level rises significantly every year, and soon the city will be submerged. What they couldn't believe was that not only this place, but the entire world would be submerged by seawater. The information had begun to spread everywhere, even in Impel Down, where Doflamingo burst into laughter upon hearing the news from Vegapunk. He asked Warden Magellan what he would do if the prison was flooded, as their responsibility was to keep the prisoners safe. Magellan admitted that the place had fallen into chaos when the sea level rose by a few meters. But to submerge the entire world in water was truly unbelievable. Doflamingo suggested that if the water rose by just 5 meters, most cities would suffer heavy damage, and he asked if they should move to higher ground, hinting at Mary Joy's. In the Ryugu Kingdom, they had also heard the information from Vegapunk. Princess Shirahoshi was extremely worried, asking her father if Vegapunk's words were true. The king was unsure, but said they would have to prepare for the upcoming disaster. Back on Egghead Island, Marine soldiers were furious at Vegapunk's baseless declaration. They believed the greatest scientist was lying, and that this would throw the world into chaos. Above, Marcus Mars was still flying around, searching for the source of the video broadcast. He asked the others to destroy all the transponder snails before Vegapunk revealed all the important secrets. The situation with Bonnie and Nami was very tense. They had to face the powerful Gorosei. As for Luffy, he was still being chased by Warcury. He transformed into Gear 5 to attack the enemy. Those who wanted to stop the information Vegapunk was broadcasting were trying to find the location of the original transponder snail. York had searched everywhere, but couldn't guess where Vegapunk had hidden it. The genius scientist continued to talk about the information he had found. According to his calculations, just a few days after recording this video, the world would experience an unusual earthquake, shaking the entire world. Upon hearing this, many people began to believe that the scientist's words were true, as an earthquake had indeed occurred just today. As a result, the sea level would rise by about 1 meter worldwide, and some islands would be submerged and become uninhabitable. Beaches worldwide would also disappear. Now, everything Vegapunk predicted had come true. This made the pirates who initially mocked him feel scared. Next, Vegapunk wanted everyone to listen carefully to what he was about to say. The earthquake that shook the entire world was not a natural phenomenon. At this moment, Saturn was extremely angry that Vegapunk was about to reveal important information. He continuously attacked the members of the Straw Hat Pirates. Nami then counterattacked with lightning, and the rest of the group also rushed in to drive the monster away. However, all wounds healed instantly, and Saturn attacked continuously without stopping. He used his giant spider legs to slam down, and the pressure from the blow blew away Nami's entire group. Seeing this, Robin tried to use her devil fruit power to create a net of arms to catch her teammates. At this moment, Vegapunk was talking about his desire for peace. After defeating Nami's group, Saturn did not kill them, but quickly ran in another direction. This confused Nami, who thought they were his target. Saturn then asked Marcus Mars if he had checked the power plant, to which he replied that he hadn't because the room was heavily guarded. Hearing this, Saturn decided to go there to find and destroy the device broadcasting Vegapunk's video. At this time, the scientist was talking about his first sin, which was creating an infinite energy source. He was driven by a desire to bring great progress to the world. Saturn then found the room containing the eternal flame that Vegapunk created, also known as the God of Fire. He transformed back into his human form and destroyed the nearby transponder snail. However, Vegapunk's voice did not stop. This was still just a fake transponder snail. Saturn ordered the others to destroy all living creatures in the laboratory, and Marcus Mars was doing the same, but it seemed ineffective. Outside, the marine warships were trying to fire cannons at the giant robot, but it did not stop and continued to move. Inside the island, Luffy felt dizzy after spinning continuously. Dory asked him to stop playing and focus on running, while Brogy worried about the fire spreading across the island, saying that if they didn't escape soon, they would all burn to death. The genius scientist then spoke about the period from about 900 to 800 years ago, a blank period in history. At this point, those living in Marie-Jouez were extremely angry. They wondered what the Marines were doing to let this video spread, but some were also interested in the information about the century erased from history. The only way to know what happened during that period was through the stone tablets called poneglyphs, which were scattered all over the world, but very few people understood the ancient language. Not to mention, deciphering poneglyphs was strictly forbidden by the government. Although he was a scientist working for the government, Vegapunk tried to decipher it, and this was his second sin. Robin and everyone else were still safe. Lilith thought that Saturn left because he was agitated by Vegapunk's speech. The doctor had deciphered many poneglyphs with excellent scientists, thus learning about the erased part of history. After crashing into the shield, Edison was still alive, trying to help the Straw Hat pirates escape safely. Outside, after seeing Warcury almost catch up with the two giants, Luffy decided to attack the monster one more time. Vegapunk was talking about a man born 900 years ago in a highly developed kingdom. It was said that he had a rubbery body like the sun god Nika in the story of the giant tribe in Elbaf. That man's name was Joyboy. And now, the one with that power was Luffy, who delivered a powerful punch to the giant monster's face. However, his arm was also burned by the flame. Seeing this, Brogy and Dory laughed loudly, thinking that Luffy never learned his lesson, as he had been burned before when hitting the other monster's body. According to Vegapunk, Joyboy was considered the first pirate on the high seas. The scene shifted to the peaceful land of Wano, where little Otama and others were listening to news from Vegapunk. Thanks to Orochi's transponder snail, they would know what was happening out there. They knew nothing about Joyboy, but Otama wanted to see Luffy again. Vegapunk continued to talk about the information he read on the poneglyphs. It was about a great battle between Joyboy and the world government of today. More precisely, it was the predecessor of the world government, consisting of 20 kingdoms forming an alliance. This means that Joyboy's pirate faction was so strong that nations had to cooperate to fight against that man. Vegapunk could not find out the cause of the battle. All he knew was that Joyboy was born in an extremely advanced civilization 900 years ago. The weapons used in the previous battle far exceeded the capabilities of current science, and were considered ancient weapons. At this time, Nami was trying to call Zoro and Jinbei back. They noticed that the clouds around them were moving. This was what Edison was talking about when he promised to help them land safely in the water. If the clouds continued to expand until they were parallel to the water, they could slide down and leave this island. Inside the control room, Edison was praying for the members of the Straw Hat Pirates to escape safely and not to be caught by the world government,